Mike?
Hey, Rich. Happy holidays. How you doing, buddy?
Same to you. What's Peyton's mood? Have you ran into him?
Yeah, I ran into him Saturday before this report came out, and then you could see the reaction with Lisa. And we've known Peyton since he came in the league and covered him, and you have as well. And I've never seen him that angry, that upset. A lot of times we look at, okay, are you going to issue a denial when charges come up and bring your name and drag it through the mud? And oftentimes, whether fair or not, we try to measure the depth of the answer, the emotion with the answer, to our presumption of, or our impression of, is this guy, giving us a PR story, or is this from the heart? Well, this seemed from the heart and angry and upset, and is as strong a denial as you could see anybody give in this situation.
Well, what's the plan on having this part of the broadcast? How much of the broadcast do you plan on having this part of tonight?
I don't think very, very much. I think there's a couple of levels to this. One that's been discussed for a good day plus. We'll certainly address it at the top, because I explained this in an interview to someone just a few weeks ago. I think it was a writer from Forbes. If you dive into these subjects within the body of a broadcast, you've got to do it in 25-second little capsules, because if the next play is a 71-yard touchdown, then you got to go back 15 minutes later and retell the story. The body of a game doesn't lend itself to lengthy conversations, but you certainly want to address it. That's why I thought Alan Chris, when they dealt with Greg Hardy on Sunday night a while back, when all the video had surfaced, the pictures, had surfaced, they kind of got into it at halftime. We have some real estate before the game. Our plan is to deal with that before the game. I also think there's another part of this, Rich, and it's not the HGH stuff. It's Peyton Manning, and will he play again?
Right.
And there was another part of that interview which didn't get a lot of run that I think we're going to try to put a little bit of that on the air tonight if time works, regarding Peyton and where he feels he is and trying to come back and be ready for the Broncos in whatever role that is. This is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. It's a team that has a defense that's championship caliber. And can Osweiler do it with them? If Osweiler, I remember Osweiler hurt his shoulder. Jay Glazer reported it was a grade 2 separation. All Brock would tell us is it's good enough, which is usually code for it's banged up, and I'm not really going to give out the secrets of how bad it's banged up.
Sure.
But Jay's always great on stuff. So, you're that, or you're one thumb on somebody's helmet away from needing to go to your backup. And I would ask you, with Denver's great defense and all the other stuff, do you want to go to Trevor Siemian, or do you want to go to Peyton Manning?
There's no question.
I guess most of your folks don't even know who Siemian is or where he's from.
Well, I mean, he's a Northwestern guy, right?
Well,
come on.
Of course. Who didn't know?
Mike Tirico joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. And we were planning on hitting that later on in the third hour, because that was Lisa Salters did ask Manning. I think it's the first, certainly, sit down where he was asked about his readiness to play. It sounds like he wants to play. He's ready to play next week, is what that sounded like to me, Mike.
This was the first week since the foot injury,
right,
that he has not had a setback, that he went all the way through and has worked out Saturday for Gary Kubiak, and then was working out Sunday. And we got a little peek at that, and we may have some of the video of that in the game tonight of him working out. Look, let's just put cards on the table here. Brock Osweiler has taken this team over. He's kept them in position, hasn't closed the deal for a play. They could still be the number one seed. So we can't fast forward. The questions, I think, start to come up if Osweiler struggles in the second half. They now are in a must-win situation in Week 17. Is that the time you want to make a change at quarterback? Is Osweiler healthy enough to play? Mm-hmm. All these ifs, I think, become much more significant questions going forward based on what happens tonight and what Osweiler's health is tonight. And then the next level of questions is Peyton Manning healthy enough to go through a complete week of practice and be ready to play on Sunday afternoon?
Mike Tirico joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show hours before he calls the big Monday Night Football finale of the 2015 season on ESPN between Cincinnati and Denver, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. And tonight, not only obviously does the result affect Cincinnati and Denver, but it affects the Texans, Colts, Chiefs, and Jets in some way, shape, or form as well. This is huge, Mike.
Rich, it affects every team that's alive in the AFC playoff chase. New England's path to the number one seed they control, but obviously even if they lost the game, depending on what happens tonight, it may help them get a number one. Cincinnati and Denver are obvious. You mentioned Houston. If Cincinnati wins, Houston's in, Indy's out. Indy's got that 10-team parlay that they need to happen to try to get in. This is part one for the moment of that unlikely set of circumstances. The path for the Jets because of tiebreakers. Pittsburgh needs Denver to lose. So everyone who's alive in the AFC tonight is impacted. So you've got 7 fan bases in the AFC with a little stake in this one tonight. And you've got the top scoring defense against the toughest defense to move the ball against. And you have 2 quarterbacks who combined have made 6 NFL starts going up against these elite defenses. So there's a lot going on in the periphery and right in the meat of this one, too.
What have you heard about Andy Dalton's hand?
I talked to Andy yesterday for a little bit, and that same week to week, he's frustrated. There was a little progress last week to this, but it's a whole situation where it's casted. It's getting all the treatments that you could possibly do, and then it's uncasted and x-rayed. They need the bye. They need the bye to give him a chance. Because let's remember, it's his right thumb, so it's the grip and it's throwing the ball. The good news is you're trying to win home playoff games. The bad news is those are home playoff games in Cincinnati in January. You want all 5 fingers working really well if you're a quarterback. So what's that scenario? McCarron, confident like he was at Alabama. That was a knock against him coming in the league for some. He's remained confident. This has to be a run game for Cincinnati against Denver's defense. They've got to get Hill going. Bernard's had a good year, but they must run. And that's really hard against Wade Phillips' defense and Ware and Von Miller and the D tackles who are having a great year for Denver and the linebackers like Trevathan and Marshall. Very hard ask, but that's what they need to do to give McCarron a chance.
Mike Tirico joining me here. It's the finale of Monday Night Football tonight on ESPN for 2015. One of the many great things about you, Mike, is your photographic memory. You just have stuff off the top of your head, fingertips. And after, I know I'm sort of putting the pressure on by giving that introduction. Of all the moments that you've seen some crazy moments, certainly with zeros on the clock this year as well.
Right,
but last 2 minutes, what can you rank them for me for Monday Night Football this year?
This year, the Will Hill touchdown for Baltimore is the tops because that's only the second time in the history of the league that a game ended on a blocked field goal return for touchdown to win the game.
Right. So
that's got to move to the top there. The Mike Tomlin brass, not paper mache, to use an old line from the Cowboys rivalries to the NFC, that bold decision to run it for the touchdown there at the end of the game with Le'Veon Bell taking the direct snap. That one is probably number 2.
In San Diego.
Yeah, in San Diego for Pittsburgh. But those are the two for me that stand out. I think every game we've had for the last 8 or 9 weeks has been within one possession at the 2-minute warning or inside the 2-minute warning, and that's never happened in the 46-year history of Monday night. So the football hasn't been of the highest quality, but it's been incredibly competitive and super close.
The Dallas Redskins game where there were no touchdowns and then suddenly touchdowns galore. The batted ball in Seattle, with Calvin Johnson.
Exactly, all that. And that's funny because you kind of mentioned that you're kind of watching Detroit meander through this whole process. If that doesn't happen, if that doesn't happen and the Hail Mary doesn't happen,
there's a lot of ifs.
Their season's very different. And those are 2 bizarre plays to end the season. So you're right. We've had a lot of them fall on our watch, and it's been kind of fun because there's nothing worse than a season where the games are blowouts and there's no enjoyment for us or the people who are watching. But games like this have just been week after week. You don't know what bizarre clock's going to run in San Diego. Nobody's going to see if the clock's running. All this stuff that goes on. So it's been one of those really cool, special, memorable years.
And lastly, your partner fired up about his brother. I know he doesn't talk about it much publicly, but that's got to feel good.
And he's fired up. We were sitting at dinner Saturday night, and he's facing the TV, and he looks at me in the first quarter. He's like, "Hey, let's switch." He has trouble watching Jay's games when he's not calling the game. It's really cool. That's the least talented roster, I think, in the NFC going into this season. The NFC East, going into this season. We know DeMarco Murray, the cast in Philly, obviously Dallas. Injuries happen with people. The Giants and the injuries they had on the defensive side. Washington was the team that almost everybody picked for last in that division. And with all the Robert Griffin stuff, for Jay to go with Kirk Cousins to have as good a December as anyone And to get that team in the playoffs, that puts them ahead of schedule. And I think, although I know it, the Harbaughs and the Grudens, the only two sets of brothers to win divisions. And I give a shout out to Jack Harbaugh, who I know you know, one of the great men, the dad for Jim and John, and Jim Gruden, who's one of my favorite people I've ever met, Rich. He's much like Jack Harbaugh. To see his sons, John and Jay, both as division champs, as dads. Can you imagine how cool that is?
Yeah.
As a dad who's a football coach, can you imagine how cool that is?
Yeah, I just like watching my son just kick a soccer ball instead of just staring at it, wondering what's that for. That's where I'm at right now with my kids.
Wait till your kids start playing games. Everybody listening knows that when your kids start playing games, here's what we do our whole lives.
Yes.
We watch games. When you're watching your kids play those games, oh my gosh, it's so different. It's gonna be all you can't.
Hey, I coach soccer. I coached soccer this fall too, Mike. You know, I got in there.
What was your formation?
Oh, just kick it. We're not we're not in the formation business right now.
What'd you serve as the break snack? Orange wedges?
Well, no, we went a little more. We weren't the most popular. Well, you know, Susie, she's only serving the most healthy stuff, Mike, on occasion.
Oh, dude.
You know.
Did you go full organic protein?
But then we finished up with donuts. We finished up with the high note. We went donuts to wrap it up.
As long as there's like a Dabble 20 pizza party or donuts or something good at the back end of it, make them come back for more. Don't ever forget that, right?
Mike, you take care. Happy holidays. Have a great cast tonight, okay?
You too, man. Thanks. We'll see you during the playoffs. See you at the Super Bowl for sure, buddy.
Look forward to that. That's Mike Tirico of the worldwide leader in sports. Lots to chew on with what he just said right there.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.